This is Ask Dr. Ben. I am Dr. Ben Newman. I study coronaviruses for a living, and I have for a long, long time, over 20 years. So I read papers, and I'm going to try to use these papers to answer your questions. The next question comes from Corinne. How you doing, Corinne? Yeah, everything's fine, Corinne. All right. Very recently, Time Magazine. Oh, yeah, okay. Ran an article by Dr. Jose Luis Jimenez, who has indicated that the research concerning aerosol transmission of COVID-19 is now too substantial to deny. Yeah, I would agree on that. We've got enough pieces that we can reasonably say that most, and yeah, I don't know if it's 99% or 95%, but almost all of the transmission seems to be accountable by aerosol transmission, going from one person to another and not hitting the ground or anything in between there. So that's fine. So yeah. I'm not saying, clutch your face as much as you want necessarily, but that's probably not the main reason it's getting in. It's probably coming in through your nose and or mouth during a moment when you don't have a mask on. Yeah. So let's see. And that our current national protection measures are inadequate to address aerosol transmission. Yeah. I think that's the case. A lot of these measures were written. I'm thinking of like the CDC guidelines, and there will be different measures probably in every state and potentially in different counties. Yeah, saying what we should do, and based on changing science, but at different times, you'd probably be able to go back and look at any set of restrictions and say, okay, here's the last point in time where that would have been viable, where that would have made sense. And for all these restrictions or lack of restrictions, at some point in history, and it may be like the 17th century, but at some point in history, there would be a time where you would say, yeah, all those precautions are in keeping with the best current scientific knowledge of the day. And I think the problem is that we tend to make regulations. We want to make like a law. Like back in the olden days, you go to the British Museum, you can see Hammurabi's laws carved out on this little granite black column. And they're right there, chiseled literally in stone and in a form that has already lasted thousands of years and will probably last thousands more. That's what we want with regulations, but in this case, the science keeps getting better. We keep getting a better understanding, and it turns out that a lot of the more relaxed approach to the virus that we were taking at the beginning turns out to be completely unsupportable right now. So, yeah, I would totally agree that basically any set of precautions that's based on the state of like journal articles before this week is probably in some way deficient, is probably not going far enough to protect from aerosol risks in particular, because for whatever reason, and I always thought this was kind of weird, but for whatever reason, we were super into hand washing and super into surface contamination, Clorox wipes, Lysol, whatever. They're fine, but the main risk is, and has always been, being in the same room as another person. And yeah, masks are only as good as the material they're made of and the way you wear them and how well they fit. And I think there aren't any. There's probably somewhere that has a really sensible set of like regulations. You can do these things in this way, and this will keep you safe. And I would probably say, yeah, I agree with that. I haven't run across that place in what I've been looking at, but my vision is by no means complete on this particular matter. I don't tend to dwell on policy. I try to look at the science and just bring the science forward, and then when it runs head on into policy, then fine. All right, we have to talk about it in that sense. But yeah, I'm not a politician at all. Yeah. So all right, can you talk more about the propensity of aerosol transmission? Yeah, that's assume that that is how it's going to get you. I would say, and that is the safest that you can be right now. Yeah. Can you talk more about mitigation for aerosol transmission? The Well, yeah, these are again really old public health principles, and I think these are actually coming from England early in the response. I remember reading something there. Maybe it was Public Health England before they blew that up. So the idea that one, if you have some kind of physical barrier that makes it impossible for you to catch a virus from another person, then there can be no better possible mitigation. So if you're not in the same room as another person, or you can put a wall in front of you. Now the wall has got to be like airtight because the virus is traveling through the air. So those little tiny plexiglass screens, they have them in our bathrooms. They're about this high, and I have no idea why. I don't know. It's just a thing for you to splash with water as you're washing your hands, I guess. Yeah, or a thing that maybe it looks bigger in the catalog. I don't know. They're kind of silly. Yeah. Yeah. So those I would not trust if air is getting in. Assume that COVID is getting in, unless the air is being filtered through a mask. And there are different levels of filters. Things like these surgical masks are pretty good. They can pick up something like 95% of virus-like particles when you're operating at low flow. So when you're not talking loudly, when you're not getting puffed out from doing a lot of physical exertion, these are fine for nice calm, yeah, nice calm situations. For other sort of more energetic or stressful or longer term situations, there is equipment. Things like respirators. There are all these cool, they look like kind of robot from the future head masks, but they'll go on. They'll have filter cartridges. Some of them are up here, like Princess Leia. Some of them are down here, like on an old gas mask. But yeah, they are apparently pretty comfortable to wear, are easy to fit, test, and are pretty darn efficient. Yeah. So stuff like that would be the way you would want to go if you had to have contact with other people. But of course, the best way to do things is to not have contact with other people, no direct contact. Yeah, which means getting good at a lot of stuff online that, oh, yeah, I personally find distasteful, but yet know that we have to do. So it's fine. I'm learning it. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good question, and that's the best I can do in terms of an answer right now, based on what's out there. Yeah, it's definitely spreading through the air from that person in the same area, and it may hang in the air for 10 or 20 minutes. It may be a person being in a room and then you walking into the room, even though they're not there. But if you don't have that mask on, potentially there is risk. So yeah, just assume the worst. Assume that COVID is all around you and take those precautions. And that's the way to stay safe. Yeah. Or safer, because I don't know. There's no safe until we get rid of this. But until then, yeah, I like what you're thinking, and just try and stay strong. And let's get through this. All right. Thanks very much. This has been Ask Dr.